So I Googled an office that was in Orlando, and mind you, that's over like an hour and a half away from me. And I called them and I said, listen, you know, I have an appointment at this other office. I would really, really like to get in as soon as possible. Like, I don't care if it's today, any time of the day, like I will come. Like, with the soonest you have, just let me know. So the lady was super nice, and I really feel like the other office that lied to me, I really feel like that happened for a reason, because the office in Orlando that I did end up going to was so, honestly, one of the best experiences, like customer service wise, at any office I've ever been to. Like, they were amazing. She was like, okay, let me look at the office you're going to. Let me pull your chart and I'll see what I can do. So she called me back. I think it was a couple hours later, because I had called before work, which was like before 9 o'clock. And I feel like at 11, she called me back and said, I can get you in tomorrow. At what time was it? I think it was at like 1 p.m. Yeah, it was at like 1. And she's like, I can get you in at 1. I was like, done. Like, put me down, write me down. Like, I will be there. So I called Dylan, or I texted Dylan because he was still sleeping. And I was like, we got an appointment. It's in Orlando. I know it's far. But at this point, me and him were both like, I will drive to the ends of the earth to get an appointment and figure out, you know, what exactly is going on. So me and Dylan and his mom the next day drove our little booties to Orlando. And I remember on the drive there, we were like, this could either be the longest drive of our lives coming back, or it could be the best drive of our life coming back. Like, we could either get really good news or we could get horrible, horrible news. And I was like, you know, let's just like try and be as positive as we can. But in the back of my mind, I was just, I don't want to say I was thinking negative, but I was, you know, because I just didn't know the extent to all of these things that we were told that Hayden could possibly have. So we get to the office, you know, I'm like freaking out. I think we were in the car and we said a prayer before we went in, and, you know, and all of my family and all of my friends were like praying and praying and just being so, so supportive through this time. Like, I don't know what I would have done without my mom and my sisters and my dad and my grandpa, and even like my aunts and uncles, who like I'm not super close with. Like, all of them were just so nice, like unbelievably just consoling. And so we get to the office, you know, we get a sonogram, which was nice. You know, we did get to see him again. And it was like a regular 2D sonogram, and then they did the 3D one, and then they also had a 4D one since it was a specialist office. So we got to see him like in real time, like moving in 3D. So it was really cool. So the sonogram tech did all of her measurements and all that she needed to do. She did all of the measurements that she needed to do. And then she left, and she was really nice. You know, she was even more nice than the last sonogram person we had at my OB office. Really friendly, and, you know, trying to get our minds off everything that was going on. And again, they printed out the sonogram pictures. We were looking at them, and the sonogram tech left. She's like, the doctor is going to look over everything that I found, and then he'll come in and talk to you guys. So what seemed like an eternity, but was really only like 5 minutes, maybe 10, the doctor comes in. He was so nice, like extremely nice and personable and understanding, and tried to give the best advice he could for a situation that he has never, you know, personally been in, even though he, you know, he's at an office that he deals with this kind of thing all the time, but he's never personally went through anything like this. So he was trying to give the best advice he could for someone in our shoes. And what he basically said was that he found, you know, the same findings that the OB office found. And, you know, they're nothing extreme to where, like, the things me and Dylan were Googling were like people, or, you know, babies who have ventriculomegaly. Their brains can sometimes just literally like be huge, and you have to have a shunt, like just crazy things. He was like, you know, your baby's not going to need that. I don't think anything is wrong. I think this is going to resolve on its own, because most of the time when babies are diagnosed with this, it does resolve itself in the womb. And it is more common for these things to happen in boys rather than girls. And he was like, I don't want to say that everything's completely fine because I don't know. The only way to know is if you get an amnio, which is where they basically put a needle like in your uterus, and they pull out the amniotic fluid, and then they will send that off for testing to see if there's any chromosome issues, if there's any crazy infections, if there's anything wrong with the baby, like they will know from that test. And from my Google searches, I found that like that's what they'll do in like extreme cases. So in my mind, when he was offering that, I'm like, oh my God, like there's something wrong, and that's why he wants me to do this test. But really, he was just trying to give us peace of mind. So he left the room. He's like, I'll give you guys a minute to think about it, and you know, I'll come back and you guys can let me know. So he closes the door, and Dylan and his mom were in there with me, and I could tell Dylan was like so upset, you know, like the look on his face was just, I don't even know how to describe what that look was. And you know, his mom was trying to be there for us as best as she could, and I just looked at them and I was like, you know, what do I do? You know, because if I do this amnio, you know, there's a very slight chance that something bad could happen to the baby from it. But then again, if there's something really wrong with him and Hayden's not going to have a normal life and he's going to like, you know, potentially die in my belly before, you know, he's term, like I want to know. And so I just looked at them and I was like, what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. And then I just started crying. Like I was just so overwhelmed, and I didn't know what the right decision was. And so, you know, they came and they hugged me and were like, you know, whatever you decide, like, we're here for you. And so me and Dylan decided that we were going to go ahead and do the amnio. And I remember that was probably the most, I would say traumatizing thing throughout the entire experience, because I knew that that was going directly into where Hayden was. And so he came in, and the doctor was really nice, trying to, you know, not joke about it, but kind of just like, you know, lighten the mood when he came in and ended up doing it. And I laid down. They put like this orange gel or like stain dye stuff on my belly, and you know, did like a little alcohol swab and put the needle in. And I just remember I was laying back and I was closing my eyes, and I was just like, tears were just coming out of my eyes, because I'm like, you know, this shouldn't be happening, you know, like this is not what I thought was going to happen throughout anything, you know, like me and Dylan just thought that we were going to have a perfect experience and a perfect pregnancy, and everything that was happening around me, I just really felt like defeated. And so, you know, Dylan was holding my hand, you know, I was crying, and Dylan actually told me after we had left the appointment that when they put the needle in, they obviously had to do a sonogram at the same time so they could make sure where the needle was going and that it wasn't hurting Hayden. And he said on the screen, like when the needle went in, Hayden was trying to like move it away. So like it just made me feel bad that like I was, you know, potentially hurting him. And I had guilt about that for a little bit. And after, you know, everything was done, it was honestly like maybe a 5-minute procedure. After all of that happened, I looked at the syringe, and it looked like pee, which he ended up telling me, like, you know, basically it's like what he's filtering out and drinking back in or whatever. He was like, I'm going to do a fish test, which from what I remember him telling me, that means they're going to send it off to a lab, and they're going to check for like the three main things that could be potential, either like life-threatening or something that some parents would, you know, consider abortion for, which we never would, you know, but it's something that he was like, I'm just going to do just in case that's an option for some people. And the fish test normally takes, you know, I think he said 3 to 7 days, but he's going to attempt the best he can to put a rush on it, since they were a brand new office. So they didn't have a lot of patients yet. It's a really, really beautiful office. Like, it's so nice. He was like, I'm going to send it off to the lab and I'm going to give you my cell phone number. And as soon as I hear something, like, I will tell you. And I was like, okay, you know, thank you. And we left, and it was the longest drive back from Orlando to where we live that I've ever experienced. It was raining. There was wrecks. I swear it took us 3 hours to get home, and I was just numb, like completely numb mentally, physically. Like I couldn't go to work. Like I called out of work for the rest of the week. So Wednesday I didn't go because I had the appointment. Thursday I didn't go. Friday I didn't go. Like I was so distraught and just mentally not okay, you know, because I didn't know what was going to happen. And the unknown is what freaked me out the most. So Wednesday night, you know, we ended up getting back, and I just remember like I instantly just didn't have an appetite. All I wanted to do was just like know if he was okay. So I ended up, you know, Dylan got us something. I think I nibbled. I think we got Taco Bell. And you guys know, if you guys know me, like my close friends, if I can't get down a Taco Bell meal, like I'm upset, you know, because that is my absolute favorite. Like I could eat that 5 times a week if that was an option. So we got Taco Bell. I remember I could barely even like stomach it. And then, you know, we went to lay down to bed, and Dylan's like, you know, just get some rest. You know, there's nothing that worrying is going to do to help the situation. Like just try and relax. And I was like, okay. So I fell asleep in bed. He always is up later than me because he has a night shift schedule. So I remember I fell asleep, and I woke up and I can't even describe to you, like my chest was just tight, and I just instantly started like hysterically crying. You know, I'm like, I just want to know if he's okay. I want to know, like, I want him to be okay. I don't want him to be in pain. I don't want anything wrong. Like, I don't want anything to happen to him or anything to be wrong with him, you know? Like, I just want him to be okay. And I just remember crying and sobbing to the point where, like, I couldn't even catch my breath. And Dylan was, like, trying to calm me down, you know, he, like, was rubbing my back. He was like, it'll be okay. Like, I just know, you know, and we prayed again, just, you know, like begging God just to let us get results as soon as we can, so we can at least just know. And I ended up falling back asleep for the rest of the night. I woke up Thursday morning, and like all of my sisters and everyone were just really concerned because 2 of my sisters have already had pregnancies, so I think they kind of understood a little bit more how frightening it is to have something maybe potentially wrong, maybe have something potentially wrong, be wrong with your child. Gosh, I can't talk. So they were, you know, texting me, and my mom, I remember, called me because I woke up, like instantly was crying. Like I left the room, went to our spare bathroom, and was just hysterical, you know, and I was crying, and my mom's like, can you call me? And she called me and was trying to like make sure that I was okay, and just to, like, reassure me that like she just had a feeling that everything would work out. And hearing that was helpful, but not knowing for sure was what was really just bringing me down. And I can't tell you, I can't even like verbally express how, I don't know if it was depression. I wouldn't say depression. It was just devastation is like the word I would use. I was devastated. Like, you know, it was before we had Hayden's nursery done, obviously. And after I got off the phone with my mom, I just took a blanket, and I took this little raccoon that one of my sisters gave me for Hayden, and I laid on the floor with this little raccoon, like just praying, that that God would, you know, let Hayden be okay. And then I remember, it's okay. He always comes over when I'm crying. Ugh. I remember I was laying in here, and then Dylan came in. He was like, how did I know you were gonna be in here, you know? And we prayed again together, and that was really nice, you know, to have him, you know, support me and be here for me.